2-7 matchups we're tackling here. So I guess we can say don't call it an upset if the Warriors do take down the Rockets in the first round. Why? Because the Warriors are minus 190 at BetMGM to win the series, despite being the 7th seed. According to Yahoo Sports, Golden State is just the second number 7 seed to be favored over a number 2 seed in the first round since like 88. 2021 was the one other time. It was the Lakers favored over the Suns, a 7-2 matchup. So that was after the Lakers had won the 2020 title. But then maybe good news for Houston. Suns won that series in 6, and then they went to the finals that year. So, maybe that bodes well for them. But let's break it down. Number 2 Rockets versus number 7 Warriors. What's one thing you're watching for in this series?
Well, I'm just going to be watching how physical Houston gets guarding Steph Curry. Simple as that. They bump, they grab. That's what they do. They did it when they just played. It got physical 2 weeks ago. And sometimes they get away with it, just like Draymond Green gets away with things. But it's going to be an extended playoff series of bumping and grinding, being very, very physical. Amen Thompson is going to have that number 1 job guarding Steph Curry. And I'm sure Ime Udoka is going to say, you got to help on stuff, but don't help too much, because you don't want that picker to be a slipper. You don't want the Golden State Warriors to be able to find these back cuts over and over and over again. So it's as simple as that. Amen Thompson is incredible. I do say they're going to get physical with Steph, but Amen Thompson is good at not being extremely bumpy and grabby. He said he's one of the top 10 greats of all time. That's a matchup I want. And so, Amen's going to get picked off, but he has to recover. And I think he is capable of doing that. But you're going to have a bunch of guys. Like when they played 2 weeks ago, Dillon Brooks hit him a couple times. Even after his shots, he just started to annoy Steph Curry. It's going to get annoying. It's going to be one of those series. Yeah. Beyond Dillon Brooks, beyond Amen Thompson, there's a bunch of guys you can throw at him. Fred VanVleet's going to get some. Obviously, Jalen Green's going to get some. Tari Eason, I think, is an underrated defender who doesn't get talked about a lot, but they're going to throw that at him. So just simple as that. Steph has to be damn good on this team for this team to win. And so I'm just watching that whole 7-game series I feel like we're going to have here. It's going to be long. It's going to be a grinder. Just going to be watching him against a bunch of Rockets they're going to throw at him. Yeah,
the Warriors did win 3 of 5 games between the two teams this regular season. Yes, they played 5 times. But Houston beat Golden State in that last game that you said there on April 6th, and that was one of Curry's worst games ever. Honestly, 1 of 10 from the field.
He only hit 1 shot.
1 of 8 from 3.
Weird.
And mainly because Amen Thompson showing that combination, right, of length, athleticism. He's got a super high motor. He's obviously likes the challenge too, and he likes to play defense. He's one of those cats. So can he do it for 2 weeks here? And how does Curry obviously counter and Curry to unlock him a little bit? That's going to be fun as hell.
That's going to be awesome, because I go back to, the 1 for 10. Incredible stuff from Amen Thompson. He was all over Steph Curry, but I flash back to Jalen Wells doing the same thing to Steph Curry. Held him without a field goal for the first time in forever. 2 points on 0 of 7 shooting. The next game that the Grizzlies and Warriors played against each other, Jalen Wells was still out there, and Steph Curry hung 52 and 12 threes on him. So he figures things out, but he's going to have to figure things out, and that's going to be awesome to watch. I am super interested in the first-time factor for the Rockets, because this is their first time through the playoffs, and the things that are their areas of weakness are kind of like classic playoff bugaboos, right? The game slows down in the postseason. Half-court offense becomes a lot more important. Teams usually get smaller over the course of time, so how are the Rockets going to be able to play to their strengths? How are they going to win the possession game? Because that's huge for them. The offensive rebounding, forcing turnovers. We know the Warriors are sloppy with it, though they're a little better in the Butler era. And where does their offense come from? So I'm really concerned and interested to see what Alperen Şengün does. And the 2 wins against the Warriors, 22.5 points per game, 49% field goal shooting, 12.5 rebounds. In those 3 losses, 13 points per game, 46% field goal shooting, 10 rebounds per game. They need him to be a hub of offense going against Draymond, probably Looney as well, even Jimmy Butler on some switches. They need Şengün to be the man down low, because he can be their most steady source of offense, but he can have some duds as well.
Yeah, I think one thing you're going to hear nonstop here until they tip this series, and even when they do start it, is this playoff experience, right, between these two teams. I mean, the Warriors having these Hall of Famers that have done a million of these series. The Rockets, their lack of playoff experience, at least with 3 of their starters, Amen Thompson, Şengün, and Jalen Green. They never played in the playoffs, so that is something. But I will say, some of the other guys on the roster at least have some experience. Fred VanVleet's played over 50 playoff games, and he's a champ, so that's good. Dylan Brooks has played in something like 3 or 4 playoff series, so he's got that going for him. And then Steven Adams and like even your Uncle Jeff Green, they've played in a number of playoff games and series. And their head coach too. Like, he's not a first-time head coach in the postseason. Udoka went to the finals. Yeah. No, I bring that up because you are going to hear a lot of it, but I will say the counter is like, my starting point guard and my head coach have been here before and gone through this. I'll start with that. That's good. Like my floor leaders, my generals, both on the floor and off, they have experience is all I'm getting at. So I think it's getting a little overblown personally.
You think the Rockets players are in the locker room saying, yeah, our coach has been there before?
Well, he understands the ebbs and flows of a playoff series.
Yeah. It's almost like
he's a great coach too. So
it's almost like he played against the Golden State Warriors a couple of weeks ago when he trash talked Steph. He got into it with Steph at midcourt.
Yeah.
Because he is that vocal guy. There's no doubt about that. So yeah, that could wear off on them. It is interesting to see the types of rotations that Ime Udoka is going to throw out there because they do lack scores. There's no doubt. So will they throw in the double big of Steven Adams, Alperen Şengün, which is awesome at offensive rebounding. It is crazy at how many boards those two dudes grab because, they just don't have a lot of scores. So Adams, the number one offensive rebounder in the league for guys that have played a ton. But some of those Rockets lineups with Adams, they grabbed over 50% of the offensive rebounds. Like, just, miss twice, we'll grab one. That's for sure. Adams, Şengün, and Jabari Smith for one, which is huge. And you got a little shooting in Jabari Smith, or Adam Şengün and Tari Eason. I think we're going to see, and we're going to see some of that. And there's been comparisons out there done on The Athletic of Udoka, who's coached two bigs before, or been a part of. Sorry, excuse me, he hasn't coached them, but been part of teams like Tim Duncan and Thiago Splitter when he was on the Spurs roster, Tim Duncan and LaMarcus Aldridge, or Al Horford and Robert Williams a couple years ago when they went to the finals. So that passing in there, you can't play Steven Adams and Şengün too many minutes because you're just going to get burned defensively. But they'll throw it out there because they need scores, and I just wonder if the Rockets are going to be up there and perform. Like, I'm not trying to compare it to the NBA Cup, but when we saw them in the NBA Cup against the OKC, they didn't perform. They didn't perform scoring-wise, so that's the big question. Yeah, everybody will be talking about it, and I think it's a fair question.
I mean, it's a contrast of styles, the way these two teams play offensively. Warriors, they play the beautiful game, right? It's all ball movements, all player movements, constant movement, blah, 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 blah. And the Rockets are dead last in ball movement and assist rate, and they just slow things down, and they're more methodical. So it's completely different, but they're obviously a great defensive team. So this is going to be a fun one. Let's talk X factors. Trey, we'll start with you. Who you got your eye on in this?
Is Fred VanVleet going to have a kid? That'd be huge.
That'd be big.
Yeah, that was his best shooting stretch ever in the playoffs, was immediately post-child in the Milwaukee series, translated into the finals as well. So I think that would be big time for the Houston Rockets because their best three-point shooter is Dylan Brooks. So I think Brooks needs the hit, Fred VanVleet needs the hit, and Jalen Green needs to have a good 10-game stretch. He's like last 10 games, man.
Yeah.
You see the stats for Jalen Green. Oh my goodness, 30 points per game over the last 10. Next 10 games, he'll be averaging 18 points a game on 33% shooting. But if it's the right 7 games, that's really nice for Houston because you got to wonder where their offense is going to come from. You're talking about the difference on offense, but the Rockets bring it defensively. The Warriors are a good defense right now as well. Their biggest concern is going to be the glass. You hear Brian Windhorst say it all the time, no rebounds, no rings. How do they rebound? I think is going to be the question for them, but the Warriors are pretty good at getting big guys off the court, or at least making them very uncomfortable, and that's been a strength for the Rockets, being able to play Şengün and Adams together, and I wonder just how many minutes both of those guys are going to be able to survive.
Yeah, foul talk with the referee is going to be deep in this one. I mean, when they played a couple weeks ago, Jimmy got so upset after the game. He said, quote, "I've never seen an individual, Steph Curry, get fouled more than he gets fouled. It really angers me that's on my team and he gets hacked like that." Like, that is going to be deep into this one. And it's going to be deep with Jimmy Butler as well. I mean, they need him to be really, really good, period. Will he score enough? I think that's a fair question in this game. In this series, I should say. I mean, will the Rockets' length discourage him? You see sometimes when Jimmy has those games where he just isn't shooting all that much, it's just against monstrous teams. And the Rockets are very, very good. Is Jimmy going to get to the line enough? I mean, a couple weeks ago, He didn't when they played him. He only shot 4 free throws. Golden State only had 11 free throws. So it's Jimmy has to perform along with Steph because they seemingly don't have a third or fourth option right now.
Yeah.
That's the crazy part of this team. When Jimmy got there, Brandon Podziemski was freaking awesome. He was that third guy. He can handle, put on the floor, do everything, but he has just gone quiet. So who's going to be the guy to support Jimmy if Jimmy's not scorching?
Is it Kuminga time? We already talked about it a little bit after that series. He didn't play, obviously, in that game the other night in the play-in game, but we're like, he has played well against the Rockets. Obviously, his athleticism maybe is something that they're going to turn to in this series. We'll see. We'll see how, if Curry even goes to him. He may just not completely trust the guy at all to give it on the defensive end. Seems like the biggest issue.
Definitely.
So we will find out. I'm with you with the Rockets guards, though, and whether they can hit threes, because that is a wild stat that Dylan Brooks is their only guy on their team that shoots above average from three for guys that take a lot of them, 200 plus 3-point attempts. This is by way of shoe. The Warriors have 4 of those guys. I mean, they have Curry, they have Moody, Podziemski, Buddy Hield. So you need Jalen Green and Fred VanVleet, who, by the way, take a lot of threes. They combine to take something like 16 threes a game together. But you're going to need it above average, I think, to pull off this. I was going to call it an upset, but it's not because they're the 2 seed. But you get my point here. They're going to need at least one of those guys, I think, to pop off in some of these games. And even look what the Grizzlies did. Like, they had a good shooting night, and they kept that game competitive. Mm-hmm. They hit, it was only 12 threes, but they shot a really good percentage, 46% the other night, with, Jackson Jr. hitting a couple and Desmond Bane catching fire. So going to need some good, strong guard play here, at least in terms of scoring from those guys, I think. Any other X factors or guys, like, talking about the bigs with the Rockets, like, will we see Looney more potentially in this series?
Yeah, I think he'll be, when Steven Adams plays, I think he can get some time. But I also think Quentin Post is a big player in this series for the Warriors because he's a 7-footer. But they need him rebounding, and they do need some release valve 3-point shots because those shots will be open. There will be times when they're getting the ball out of Curry's hands or out of Butler's hands, and that's going to be a concern for the Warriors. Is not necessarily who's the second scorer, that's Jimmy, but who's the second scorer playing alongside Jimmy, Moody, and Podziemski. 2 of 9 from 3 against Memphis, but they both shot the ball really well in April. Buddy Hield has his moments. He has his bad moments as well, but I think Post is going to get a chance. That's a big ask for a dude who's a rookie. He's been awesome this season. He is an older guy, so I guess maybe he'll be a little bit less phased by the moment, but still, they're going to need a contribution from Quentin Post, I believe.
Predictions. Where are you going? You said it's going to be a long series.
Yeah, I think so.
Like we've thought with a lot of these so far.
Yeah.
We picked a lot of 6 or 7 game series here. Where are you going?
Yeah, this is a tough one for me. At first, I thought Houston could do it in 7, having that home court advantage. But I do think we'll see them just struggle to score the ball. And so if it gets to 7, we're going to see probably Curry and what he did 2 years ago against the Sacramento Kings in that first round, Game 7 in Sacramento. He dropped 50. This one will be in Houston. You can't bet against Steph. Even though Amen Thompson will be all over him. I mean, they'll just get him loose just enough to have a monstrous game. So I'll take the Warriors in 7.
Okay.
Steph's going to have a good one. How can you bet against that dude? They'll do it.
The big question for me that I've been wrestling with is who does a long series benefit? Because the Warriors are older. They can definitely get run down. They don't have as much depth as the Rockets do, but I think Kerr is a good coach over the course of a 7-game series. He's really good with adjustments once we get to 5, 6, 7. Also, they've just got the figure it out factor. Steph's a great problem solver. Draymond's a great problem solver. Jimmy Butler's a great problem solver. They've got years and years of experience doing that kind of thing. On the Rockets side, they've got the youth. They've got the depth. They should be fresher, but they've got a lot of guys that I'm by the end of a playoff series, are they going to be able to stay on the court? That even includes Amen Thompson. I'm the guy's a 20% 3-point shooter.
Right.
Are the Warriors going to be able to scheme him off the court like Tony Allen back in the day? I doubt it happens, but there are concerns with that. Jalen Green, up and down. Steven Adams, is he going to have an impact on this series? I don't know. There's just a lot of guys I got questions about with the Rockets because we haven't seen them do it. So I'm with Tass on this one. I like Warriors in 7 because they got the guy I trust the most.
Yeah. And some of their guys, their support guys, because there are Warriors guys that we have questions about. Who's that third guy? But like you said, Podziemski, Moody, they've been shooting really well until that Memphis Grizzlies game. So maybe it's just a play-in versus playoffs thing that they'll get through it. Or maybe they won't shine in the playoffs.
Look, I know, I'll admit I'm living in the moment right now because I would have a different opinion, I think, if we didn't see what Jimmy Butler did in his last 2 games. Like, this guy has, like, completely proven, like, yeah, I do this come playoff time. And you're like, oh, yeah, he does. Like, those were incredible. Those were the best 2 Jimmy Butler games we've seen all season. And I feel like he's going to continue at that sort of level, and they're going to need him to do that. That's why I'm going Warriors in 6. You guys laid out all the reasons why. I think it's going to be competitive. I can't wait to see who gets ejected first, or if there's suspensions in this series. They got a lot of guys that like to mix it up, and there's going to be a lot of complaining, and I don't know, it feels like this is going to be like game 2 or 3 or 4 where someone like Dylan Brooks or Draymond Green crosses some sort of line, and we're going to have a big 20-minute segment on, should he get suspended or not? Like, it feels like that's coming. So that's always exciting for us podcast creators. But I'll go Warriors in 6. You guys go Warriors in 7. Cruella the Kid, a.k.a. Prince. Where are you going in this one?
Well, you look at both teams, you got to see which one's got the most dogs, right?
He's got the 101 in him. I got the 101 in me.
You look at the Warriors, they got the most dogs. They just brought one of the biggest playoff dogs in with Jimmy Butler. So I got to go Warriors in 6.
Warriors in 6. Okay, no one back in the Rockets. Will we look silly? Will that be like that that Lakers-Suns matchup back in the day? It's got some similarities in a weird way, I guess. But we are Warriors. Who you got in the stream team? Let us know.